Hello, how are you doing? My name is Josh, and I've been, an individual that's been training with, Neuroptimal dynamical neurofeedback for quite some time now. I have a very interesting story to tell, and I'm so glad that I actually get this opportunity to share exactly where I have been, and more than less, where I'm going. To begin off, I have a few reasonings as to why I wanted to train. Actually, I'll go ahead and I'll get very, very personal with you. Um, in the early timeline of I'd say 2014, I went through an experience through a place that was in Florida, and from the event that happened, it was almost like I guess if I could explain it, it felt like to me I was in a state of panic and stress from seeing something that happened to somebody else. Now, basically, from what I can try to explain is that it was a stressor of facing a person, and from how I responded to it, it just put me in that point of like at one point in time, it was really difficult for me to, feel like I was very much safe in the world, or like I could do, a bunch of things. But honestly, I can say that, I don't feel that way anymore, at least not as much as I once did. Also, the aspect of me noticing that I was not very very much at that point in time being able to do a bunch of tasks that most people could do. Like it was really difficult for me to get out of the house and like to try to be out in like social situations because of that event. And while after it had happened, I was out and about and doing things, but I still felt like there was this oncoming aspect of like well, what could be coming my way next, and what could I do to prepare myself. But then, at one point in time, it got to the point where, as I said, I couldn't really go anywhere. And it was just so overwhelming. And I'm so glad to say that, through my training, a lot of things have changed. Basically, I found a lot out about NeurOptimal by at one point in time when I was doing EMDR therapy with someone by the name of Paula Sanchez Baker. She was my EMDR therapist for a while. And it kind of gotten to the point where within doing my training sessions of trying to do, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing to try to very much work through the event to basically, get to that point where you wouldn't have to very much feel the same way, although it would take time. It was the effects as to how she saw how I was responding to it. So, she basically said, from how I see what you're trying to do, it seems like it's hurting you more. So why don't I tell you about something called neurofeedback? And then when she told me about neurofeedback, that was when the whole aspect of everything else had changed on, how I was thinking about, how I ended up finding out about NeuroOptimal. And I found out about NeuroOptimal basically by watching a YouTube ad that came up. And from the way in which how the artistic perspective was, being explained of certain things, it just intrigued me. And from that was where, I just watched more videos, and I actually decided to say, you know what, this makes much more sense. And within me saying that, I just said to myself, I have to honestly do something that would seem much more beneficial. And from the way in which how it works, it's very, very much small, and it's non-invasive. It doesn't really cause any side effects, and it's 100% natural. But I noticed how when I would honestly, be able to get into the format of relaxing, or I could like feel parts of myself trying to, decompress from the tension and everything else that very, very much was putting me in a position to seem like everything was on high alert, high stress. I mean, I found out about how the amygdala works in the brain, and how, in so many cases, that's where your emotional state towards stress and response is definitely made. And then, getting into more complexities of it, it felt more like in that area, my awareness of what I was looking at and what was around me over time, it died down. It wasn't so much was like, I'm spiking that arrangement of, well, when am I going to have to face another adrenaline stressor, and what is it going to do, or what is it going to take me to? And honestly, minus that, some of the things that I liked about the training was like I could honestly not think about anything. I didn't have to think about, well, am I doing something correct or am I not doing something correct? Like basically, NeurOptimal takes out all of the guesswork that you may think of rationally. And one of the things that I admired about it more than less was just the simple fact as to how it's plug and play technology. Like once you hook yourself up with the conductive pace and you press your session to either be a 33 or a 44, your brain is in the driver's seat. And that makes much more sense to me because it's like that's exactly what you have to use to utilize yourself when it comes to these things, especially your overall actions and, just the relaxative process. Like, I would watch ASMR videos and they would actually furthermore, make the, arrangement of me training like, seeming as if like I was at that state of calm that, everything was eventually end up being okay. I would honestly say just look into how it works. Because as anything, before you decide to like, put yourself in a position of saying, okay, let me see if I could possibly, give this a try. You want to first know about it. Like you want to do your research. Like I'm the type of person where at least if something is going to sound like I should be doing it, or if it's supposed to be for my benefit, I want to know, well, number one, what are the benefits? What am I supposed to get out of it? And of course, most importantly, is it really worth my time? Because I do realize that when it comes to, finding out new things, time is essential and time is important. And with time, what I've learned through my training is that I'm learning to be a more open individual, or like I'm trying to see things from a different perspective. A few things that I could say about, what to really think about when you're training. I would definitely say, first thing was be patient with yourself, because we're all complex individuals and we all have a story and we all have different details. And no one story is not like anyone else's, but in the collectiveness of it, there's some relativity. But when it comes to your training, I would definitely say, one thing that you can do to, think about what makes sense to you is, picturing yourself as the individual that you want to be. One of the things that I can say about neurooptimal dynamical neurofeedback is that it allows you to find a way to want to become the best version of yourself. And I know it may sound cliche, but that's a journey that you will take on your own. But through it, you'll find out things that you probably didn't think you knew, or you probably might not even realize, a lot of capabilities that were already there. They just needed to be a little bit more enhanced. And that's one of the things that I can say about neurooptimal. It doesn't tell you if you're doing something wrong or if you're telling yourself if you're doing something right. It basically is allowing for what the natural arrangements are of for you to learn. And from within that learning, you already know what is best for you to do. Well, I'll say your brain. You may see things that other people didn't see. And then there'll be things that people will see in you that you didn't see at first. And you may feel like it's not working, but all I'm going to tell you is be the tortoise in the, the marathon, not the hare. I found out and I learned, not trying to talk about the complexities of it, but the brain is a non-linear system. It's not a fix where it's like, okay, well, if point A was point A, then point A is going to lead to point B. No, 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 no. Basically, if something needs to be solved before something else can be, arranged to be looked at, that is exactly what is going to happen. But from my training, I would say the only thing that I noticed was at one point in time, I did have a spike in my senses or my emotions. But then again, it was at that point in time where it wasn't like, oh gosh, I'm about to, fall to pieces or I don't know exactly what I'm doing. It was more where it was like I was starting to become more aware of, okay, what makes sense? If you believe in where you can go and you still have that vision, then I can totally say that, if you're training, you'll totally more than less get there. And you can find strength and you can find very, very much incredible creativity. It very, very much spiked my anticipation to want to continue in things that I really, really like or things that I've dreamed of. And more than less, I know that the same thing can happen for you. My name is Josh, and thank you for listening to my Neuroptimal story, Opportunity and New Beginnings. There was something that I left out from, when I was actually training. And for the duration of time that I was training was actually 2 years. So I had a very much bigger bonus to, find out a lot more of the, results that have allowed for me to realize so much more about how, there's so much potential in this. And also within how I've been training for that amount of time, I also found out that the way in which how NeurOptimal is arranged, it lets you realize that what you can be that better individual that you're wanting to become. Like if you want to do art, it can open up you to inspiring how to see things from a different medium. And if you want to look at, I'd say maybe music, or what I would like to do, animated voiceover artistry, it can allow for you to become more of that individual character. And within being that character, you just see so much opportunity for yourself, like where you can go.